Good morning and happy Friday. I hope you're all well. I'm just going to turn off this so it doesn't distract me. So today we're going to look at the power of fasting for pretty much all of our health issues. Morning, Craig. I'm just going to blether a little bit until people join, get their notifications that we're live. So we have in Scotland one of the worst health pictures in the world, and that makes me really sad because I know so much of it. We have the knowledge and the understanding. Morning, Lorna. How to help people. And how to also help ourselves. Morning, Diane. So the whole thinking behind the Heal Scotland movement is that to give people the education and the understanding, morning, Mary, on how to work their body. You think about it. Yeah, I'm 60. Morning, Sean. Hi, darling. Yes, I hear. I hope you're feeling good, are you? Let me know how you're doing. Morning, Moya. Yeah, so most of us, education sets us free. You know, understanding and being educated. When I was in South America, I remember talking to this young girl who really, because she didn't have any education, she was trapped in her life with no apparent way of getting out of it. And, you know, as a Western woman, morning, Izzy, I realised how lucky I am because I have the skills and the ability to help myself. And no matter what happens around you, some people, marriages break up, people die, all sorts of things can happen where we are left to fend for ourselves. But we have that power to fend for ourselves. And obviously you've got a community that supports you. But ultimately, the education is the thing, is the key. But as I keep on banging on, information and knowledge will not heal you. It's the action that heals you. So, but I truly believe, for me, researching this book and really going into much greater depth and remembering things that I knew in the past. Yes, Cheryl, nice to see you. Fat Fiction, absolutely phenomenal documentary. So we're starting to understand that we've been lied to, and sometimes we're lied to deliberately, and sometimes people have taken a snapshot, thought something, and then told everybody, and we've all joined the bandwagon like the low-calorie diet. But you know, a lot of years ago when I was doing my nutrition diploma, I remember walking past a homeless guy begging in the street at George Square, and I sort of looked at him and I thought, God, I wonder if you've ever had any nutrition, real nutrition in your life. I don't know his story, but I wondered if had ever had the love, the nutrition that he needed in order to, like a plant. You know, if you put a plant in a corner and don't give it any water and love and food, it can die. And we're the same. It takes us a lot longer than the plant, but anyway, so I ended up working with this amazing project called the Second Chance Project, teaching, because I realised that people are coming off all sorts of addictions and not understanding the gut biome and the essential fat profile. And it seemed to me we're making what is already a difficult job much more difficult. Now, whether we know that if you're addicted to drugs, say heroin or cocaine or whatever, that can be your primary addiction and that's your driver. And then there's the secondary addiction, which when we take the primary addiction away, we fall back to the secondary addiction, which for many women is food, and for men it can be sex. And please watch that podcast that I put up with Tom yesterday. Absolutely incredible, talking about the 4 F's. So one is food, obviously. One is fear. One is fornicating. And one is friends. And the way he talks about it, how fasting, learning the power of fasting, and it's not, fasting just immediately makes you think hungry, lack of food. It's not that at all. It's about balancing your gut biome in such a way that is so simple and easy we can all do it. So the fear keeps us stuck. Then the food keeps us stuck. We're using food as a drug. We're self-medicating our feelings with our food. Sex, the whole thing about relationships, which is really nothing to... We're all looking for love, but we think sex can come in through that, and then there's all the drivers underneath that. I'm not going to go into that today. And then obviously friends, and I think, you know, I was talking to my friend this morning, how people are treating each other nowadays and snitching on each other, and it's like, oh, it's just so like, what are we doing? How can you ever think that's going to get you what you want? And of course then, if your friendships aren't strong and you can't trust people around you, that puts you into fear, which can then end up driving you to eat different foods. And, you know, and what is fascinating about the Bulletproof Coffee guy, he's talking about our microbiome and our mitochondria driving us to do all sorts of things that we wish we'd never done. Eat food, date the wrong people. I mean, all these behaviours, morning mo, are all being driven by the microbes that are living on us. And if you think, you know, we're living on our Mother Earth, Gaia, Sophia, whatever you want to call the planet, however you perceive the planet, that's what we're doing right now. We're take, without really tending the garden, without thinking of the generations ahead, without thinking about what happens. You know, are we interdependent, or are we dependent on these huge, greedy, corrupt corporations? So it really is, the microbiome it's as above, so below. What is happening in our bodies? Quite simply, we don't understand. And it's driving so much of the behaviour. Morning, Susan. So let's talk about addiction, because we're all addicted, right? We're all dealing with addiction to some degree or another. And what we know is it's much easier to replace a habit than to try and take a habit out. Morning, Leslie. So and that's why when you take away one addiction, you're trying to put one that's healthier in. And like Janice was saying, and Janice and I are going to do another live a week. A week on Wednesday. Yeah, we're going to do it. I think it's the 10th. And we're going to be talking about the biome and the drivers and the hormonal imbalances. And the fact that there's 10 times as many beasties living on us as we have cells. So it's a really complex structure. But when you're getting, and there's a difference between hunger and craving. If you're just hungry, you can think, oh, well, I'm getting my lunch in an hour. But if you're craving, it's like, get me that thing now. So, and what fasting does is it takes the cravings away. Now that might seem really counterintuitive, but the only way you're going to find this out is by trying it. So if you are managing your emotions with simple carbohydrate and sugar, then the first thing to do is just start with a 12-12 and just say, after 7 o'clock at night, I put nothing else in my body until 7 in the morning. Now, I think for most people that is doable, even if it is a bit of a stretch. And even if at night, because very often that's the time where we snack and eat rubbish. And also watching a screen, staring at a screen, stimulates a dopamine release in the body, and the dopamine makes you crave carbohydrate. So the couch potato thing is actually a thing. So once you know that, you can maybe change certain behaviours. Go to your bed earlier. An absolute no-brainer for fasting. So it is about starting somewhere, but I wanted to talk about addiction and anxiety today, because addiction is the craving where your body is absolutely ruling your show. Oh, morning, Lois. Great stuff. So, and what I love about the Bulletproof guy is that he talks about we're suffering our way. We're suffering and suffering and suffering trying to get results. And certainly that's what dieting is. It's like you need to cut out all the things that you want. You can't eat out, you can't go to your friend's house for dinner, yada, yada, yada. And what we do know, and again, this is really interesting, something I actually just learned yesterday, was that when you start to move from bad fats to good fats, it can take around 2 years for your cells to become efficient and to work at full capacity again. It is a process that takes time. And, you know, I certainly know from the Gerson point of view, they say 2 years. And lots of naturopaths will say you're on a 2-year journey to healing to really flip the body back into full power. So, yes, Lisa, fasting is very powerful. That's the whole thing. Please put your experiences up, because that's how we inspire each other, is by telling each other the stories. So when it comes to the craving can be absolutely, massively helped, and even it can dissolve and disappear when you eat the right foods, because I'm sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but in a lot of addiction services, they don't talk about your microbiome. There's clearly stuff from the past, our learned behaviour, our genetic predispositions, our trauma, and some people have had terrible trauma as children, and they are using the alcohol, the drug or the food to change how they feel and to get away from the past. And all of that is relevant, and all of that has to be taken into consideration. But with anxiety, which is a pandemic, young kids anxious, I mean, it's crazy. It really, really upsets me. Wow, Susan, 7 pounds since Monday. That's unbelievable. I didn't even weigh myself. I never thought, but you can feel it in your genes already. It's unreal. And not being hungry, it's just fantastic. So yeah, with addiction and anxiety, it's the body speaks to us in feelings. Can you drink water? Yes, you can, Pauline. And I highly recommend that you do, because the more you drink, the more you shrink. There is a dry fast, but that's a whole other thing that I'm not going to talk about today. So if your addiction and then the mind comes in, why do I keep doing this? I don't want to do it. Yes, Cheryl, curb the cravings. This is something that's, again, I'm saying it's anti-intuitive. If you eat properly, you get plenty of fats in there, plenty of probiotics, and maybe that's going to come from fermented foods and live foods and raw foods. Again, I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but when you are getting in the correct foods, your microbiome's happy and all the cravings stop. And an interesting thing that Tom was talking about is that some of our Mother Nature's food can be potentially toxic, and we know that the nightshade family can aggravate inflammation in some people. We also know that lectins, which we get in legumes, can be very difficult for people to digest. And the pressure cooker is the thing that cuts that out. So if you're very compromised, then make sure that your food's well hydrated and it's on the way to being digested. So either the pressure cooker's brilliant for that, soaking your foods, fermenting your foods, because what you've done is you're either using the germination process or the fermentation process to leave the food the enzymes will start to break it down by itself. And also that brings me, I cannot miss out the power of mushrooms for healing as well, because they have that phenomenal regeneration and degeneration power within them. And if you have candida, which is fungus in the gut, that is when your bacteria is completely out of balance and it's causing fogginess, maybe aches and pains in your joints, bloated, there's fungus in your feet and your nails, recurrent infections. All of these things can be coming from your gut, will be coming from your gut. And then also you have to put in the way you're breathing and the way you're sleeping. So I think it's critical to really understand this and to understand for your children as well, because I've seen kids that have been on a lot of antibiotics when they're younger gain a lot of weight in their teenage years. And that's the worst possible time to gain a lot of weight, obviously, because you're so self-conscious and you're vying for attention from the opposite sex or the same sex. And that can be a real huge problem. And then as a parent and as a teenager, you may not understand it's the microbiome that's driving it, causing you to crave. You know, this is critical information to know so that you're not blaming yourself and blaming your willpower and thinking, why am I because we stay in that cycle of why. And, you know, our body image, rightly or wrongly, is a huge thing. But until quite recently, we've just always behaved as if we were a victim of the body, a victim of the genes. But we're not. Once you understand you can feed the healthy bacteria, your anxiety will dissolve and disappear. Your body will start to utilise the food that you're putting in. Your cell membrane, remember I spoke about that yesterday, if you want to go back and watch the live on fats from yesterday. The cell membrane, if it's really hydrated. Now you think, because this is where we're going to bring natural light into it. So the natural spectrum of light, the sun, or maybe not so much the sun, but the natural light hits the cell. Now, if the cell is buoyant and hydrated and happy and in harmony, and all your microtubules are expanded and in tune, the light hits the cell membrane, which is your oil profile, remember. What happens when light hits oil? You get the full spectrum, the rainbow of colours, don't you? If you see oil in a puddle, you'll see all the colours. So this is your light therapy and your colour therapy. So if your cells are hydrated, you've got a strong good essential fat profile, you're really letting go of all the crap that you've gathered over the decades and lifetimes, then the information, the signalling system from the light, from the UV and God knows what else, loads of stuff we've not discovered yet, the information can travel through the cells effortlessly. And we, as an antenna, can pick up and share and flow the information, rather than what is happening to most Western people now is the cells are toxic and dark and the cell membrane shrunk because you're not eating enough fat and you're thinking negative thoughts and you're not having enough clear, fresh water to move things through the body. Now, on a physical level, that's clear. But remember about the negative thoughts, the judgment. I was talking to my friend this morning, we were having a bit of a moan. And you're just like, the energy that takes, the neurons that fire, the chemistry that my body gives me when I judge others. And that's the other great thing about that podcast, which I'll put the link to this again, is he says, try having a negative thought fast. So stop thinking, see how long you can go 1 hour without thinking something negative about another one of your brothers and sisters on this planet. It's a really good one. Maybe we'll have a challenge on that. So everything is driving everything. And yes, the breathing, absolutely hugely powerful and instantaneous. 1 minute of the 4-7-8 breath and you will feel different and your microbiome will behave differently. I mean, this is the phenomena of the phenomenal power of this body that we are living in. And because we haven't fully understood how it works, and we haven't fully understood that actually we're inside it, guiding it, talking to it or not, criticising it, judging it, blaming it, and all of the body is not recognising the words per se, it's recognising the vibration, and it's giving you the chemistry that it thinks that you need. Too hard when you look at people's shopping. Yeah, totally, Leslie. Absolutely. But this is the other thing about fasting. When you start, don't even think about changing your food. Just think about compressing your eating time into that 12 hours. One step at a time. You know, we tend to want to do all the changes and, you know, the body, in this third dimensional reality, for the want of going a bit spiritual right now, we have this concept of linear time. So things take time. So we have to take time and practice and repetition, as I keep banging on about, with the changes, and patience. So start with get kombucha, or get some raw food, a fresh juice. Choose something, make some probiotic balls, just have a nice, what I used to always do when I was living in Malta was have a huge green salad in my fridge all the time. And I'd put a handful of it into my juice, a handful of it with my breakfast, a handful with my lunch. So I knew I was getting all these raw, live, soaked enzymes in terms of the nuts and seeds as well. So you're adding in. Think about adding in instead of doing without. And the more that you add in, the more fat you have, the more fibre you have, the more live enzymes you have. Guess what? The fuller you are. And even yesterday, that's why I thought, I'm not even hungry. You're kind of forcing the food in because I know I'm going to go 18 hours. But that's what ends up happening. You completely lose the desire. And trust me, I'm a foodie. I love food. So I'm myself and Janice and Claire, the West Highland witch, medical herbalist, we're always inventing different ways to eat, and we're going to bring more of that to you because I've discovered that people really like to talk about food. So understanding that you're not feeding you're feeding the microbes to stop the cravings. You're feeding the microbes to stop the anxiety. You're feeding the microbes to heal your gut. So that's what you're doing. It's like you're going out to feed the birds. You're going in there to feed the microbiome. And so when you start to understand that and stop blaming yourself for being too fat, too thick, not having enough willpower, not having enough self-esteem, do we have to go to the emotional side? Absolutely. Because we know that very often, particularly with sexual abuse, that we subconsciously start to store fat to protect ourselves. We also know that when we're really stressed, the body stops digesting so that we get fatter because the body thinks that's what we need. So all these automatic things that are happening in the body that we were mindless because nobody taught us how to work it, what it was doing and how it's alive and how it's changing all the time, and the mindfulness that it takes for us to make sure that we're saying, thinking, feeling, perceiving and believing things that are going to assist the body. And this is again my big gripe when people get really terrifying prognosis. It's a total lack of understanding what you're doing to that person's soul and mind, and the fear that you initiate inside that person that can be really challenging and sometimes impossible for me to help them to change, because it's just a pervasive black cloud at the back of their mind that they are powerless. And nothing could be further from the truth. You're so powerful, and hundreds of thousands of people are defying the odds. But this information is critical, I believe. A few people will just say, well, I'll try it. Why not? That makes sense to me. That resonates with me. That's a very small percentage of the population, between 1% and 3%. The rest will follow. They want the proof. They want somebody else in power to tell them, yes, it's okay, you can do this, because we have lost our integrity, our inner knowing. We've given all our power away to the powers that we perceive to be. And in doing that, we are slowly dying. We've lost our voice, and your soul is screaming at you right now to wake up and own your power. Because, as I keep saying to all my clients, when you get up to the pearly gates and you look back and you realise you could have been seen, done anything with your free will, but you were so scared, you were so full of fear, you'd taken on other people's points of view that often don't have your best interests at heart, because let's face it, it's the pound, the dollar that's driving all the behaviour right now. But we have got this phenomenal intelligence and intuition and this farm, this microbiome that will work with us when we understand and create that harmonious relationship with the body with the cells. Great loss, 5 days in, weight loss, better mental health and well-being. I'm completely awake today. Absolutely brilliant. Fasting will empower you. It will help you to heal. Even if you're worried about what should I eat, what about this? If, people, can I eat this? Can I eat that? Can I eat that? What about this? No. If you've got to ask me if you can eat it, then there's a very, very high chance it's going to be a no. But if you fast, there's no debate to be had. There's nothing to worry about. It's just like for that space and time, like for most of us on this intermittent challenge, for 16 to 18 hours, our body had that complete rest, that restoration, repair, healing time. We gave it that. And then today we feel empowered. Now, whether you start at 12 hours or 18 hours, next week I'm going to try the OMAD, 1 meal a day. So if you want to try that with me, I'll start that on, not Monday probably because I need to get organised in terms of shopping and research, but Tuesday, 1 meal a day and see how it is. Again, just stretching your belief system, your confidence, your understanding that you're not going to starve to death, you're not going to faint, nothing terrible's going to happen, only good stuff can happen. And that's another point I want to say. Whether you're in addiction and heavy addiction, or whether you're out of heavy addiction and you're learning how to balance yourself. Maybe you've got deep anxiety. Maybe your teenagers have got terrible anxiety. And there's a whole thing going on here because so many people write and say, what can I do for my child or my daughter? And sometimes they're older. The bottom line is the only person that can do this is you. Lead by example so that people are saying, what have you been doing? You look fab. You sound fab, you're happy, even through all this chaos and madness, because that's the only person we can ever really, really change and teach is ourselves. And then when you start to vibrate at a much higher frequency with a lot less stress, with a lot more power, people will go, wow, what's happened to you? And then you can tell them. And as Esther Hicks says, never teach unless you're at your highest vibration, because people don't want to be taught. That's the bottom line. They're exhausted. They've got enough going on. This is not about putting more on your plate. This is about a deeper, more empowering level of understanding that you have. When you understand, and I really truly believe this, I didn't understand any of this. Pissed off that I'm 60 and learning a lot of this stuff. Imagine our kids can just be brought up with the understanding of the relationship with the biome and feeding it and shutting it up instead of staying in that position of powerlessness and feeling weak and feeling stupid and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's enough information. I'm pretty sure you're getting great results already and we're only 5 days in, which is just bonkers. It's fantastic. And then the other thing that I think that's really important is to say, don't take life too seriously. Intermittent fasting is fantastic, but you can at the weekend have, I don't mean in this challenge because we're doing this challenge to embody a behaviour, but you can get really caught up, I can't do this. Yeah, you can have breakfast one day and then lunch and maybe not have anything later on. You can mix it up. The body becomes a creature of habit, as we know. And what happens when we get into habits is if we don't want to break them. But the body then, it's called the law of diminishing returns. You keep doing something, you start breathing, you feel great, you start the cold water, you feel amazing, you're telling everybody, and then slowly but surely you're not quite getting that high because that's just the way it works. The body gets used to it. And fasting's the same. You don't need to suffer, you don't need to stress. You can learn to switch off your hunger, learn to switch off your cravings using foods and drinks. And then when that happens, you will feel like a completely new, empowered person, which you actually always were, that because your biome and your mitochondria were running your show, you thought you weren't. See, it's all about the beliefs. So let's do the 478 before we finish. And remember, share the recipes, inspire each other. The Heal Scotland movement is about people helping people. We have to get away from this idea that you need somebody with 20 degrees and a PhD to help you. Arguably, that sometimes can keep people away from understanding the interconnection of us souls, and that we're not the story, we're not the behaviour. We are these little sparks of light inhabiting this body right now and learning together. Spread the word. And as I say, somebody just put up there, be the change you want to see in the world. Where are the recipes? Well, I think, Janice, we've been putting some in the event and in the Heal Scotland, all the Heal Scotland groups. But there's tons of stuff on, on Google. Just Google whatever it is you're looking for and you will find it. But it's really nice to see pictures of stuff that people are making right now, because I think it's super inspirational. And it gives you ideas, because what we tend to do, if you remember what Janice was saying on Monday, it's about diversity, the biodiversity. It's the same in nature. We need the diversity of the plants and the trees, etc., and not just keep planting the same thing in straight rows. We need to work with nature, and it's the same for us. We need that whole, the eat the rainbow, that whole diversity. And it's really simple to stay and eat the same thing over and over again. And the other thing I highly recommend that you do is count how many vegetables you eat a day. Because trust me, one of the biggest lies I was told when I was a practicing nutritionist was, I've got a healthy diet. Oh, I eat lots of veg. I'm like, okay, give me a food journal. And it'll be 2 bits of veg with dinner. That's it. And maybe a tomato at lunchtime. But that's not good enough. We're looking for 12 portions of veg. So get them chopped up, get them raw, get them in your juice, and get them in your soup, in your stews. Roast them, whatever way you like, steam them. It doesn't matter. But you need to be honest with yourself about how much vegetable you're getting in, because I absolutely think a lot of people, particularly in Scotland, need to eat animal products. Not everybody believes that, but what I've seen, it's much, much easier to keep everything balanced, and I mean your emotions and everything, if you're having well-sourced animal products. If you're a vegan by choice, that's absolutely up to you, but you still need to pay attention that you're eating enough vegetables, because what tends to happen with a lot of vegetarians and vegans is they end up going for a lot of simple carbohydrate and they get candida. So be aware of that. There's a spit test you can do to try. So fat makes you thin. Fat gives you a buoyant cell membrane and it switches off your hunger. What more could you want? So let's do the 4-7-8. Breathing in for 4, hold for 7 and out for 8. And again, just check in with what the body's telling you. I'm having a laugh with my new watch that Nikki gave me, because my pulse went up to 140 when I went in the icy water today. And I've never really been aware of my pulse going up that rate, but it did. I took my blood sugar, cold water puts your blood sugar down. It was 6.6 before and it was down to 5.8 after. Now, these gadgets are just, again, a really good way for you to get to know your body. This tells the stress rates. And I noticed yesterday my stress went up at 8:30. And I was like, what was that? And then I realised it was when I went into the cold. So it's just a really good way to keep an eye on your nervous system. The 4-7-8, 100% will just take you down. So just do it with me. Breathing in. Hold. And out. And in. Hold. And out. And in. Hold. And out. And in. Hold. And out. Now that's your simplest free tool for just calming the vagus nerve, lowering your heart rate, taking your stress levels down, 1 minute. Practice it every single day, 2-3 times a day, 4 rounds. That's all you need to do. And you're just gently teaching the body. Out of fight or flight, back into rest, restore, repair. Gentle reminder. It's like the training your puppy. You just gently, gently, gently. You're just training your nervous system. And again, it can take a while. Practice that for 6 weeks and see how you feel. Anyway, huge love and appreciation again for everybody tuning in and supporting the Heal Scotland movement. Please share, download the free app, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share the page, like the pages, share anything with your friends that you think will help them, and have an awesome weekend. I'll see you on Monday. I'll be back here on Monday at 10. Ciao.